Hello folks, this is the Universal Mind channel and it's part 7 of our study of reincarnation, the scientific theory based on my book of the same name. Last episode we discussed how we're not going to call reincarnation anymore. Pew Research Center back in 2021 did a study, a random sampling of adult Americans, and they found a third of American adults believe in some form of reincarnation. They believe that in some way they've been born again, somehow, in some process, that they have been born again in this world. Not in heaven, not in hell, but in this world. That kind of increasing belief deserves the process that they believe in, that these people believe in. This process deserves a better name, a more scientific name. Not a more scientific name, a scientific name, not a hocus pocus name like reincarnation. The Asian philosophies do not regard this process as, they don't call it reincarnation. They think it's silly to call it reincarnation. You can only be, they know, you can only be incarnated once, not again and again. You're not incarnated more than once. You are what you are forever, because your unique personality, the memories that make you up cannot be destroyed. Those are natural laws that prevent your unique information from being destroyed. So, in the last episode, we gave it a name, a scientific name, PhiAlpha, and we're going to call it PhiAlpha from now on. Why PhiAlpha? That's for a later episode. Last episode, we discussed how PhiAlpha activates when we near death. Today, we're going to take a look at another stage of PhiAlpha process. There are actually 6 PhiAlpha stages. Once it becomes activated, there are a number of further steps that it goes through. Activation, memory organization, memory prioritization, memory encoding, memory emission, and memory reception. Like in the book, we cite research studies upon which this theory is based. The scientists that did the studies we refer to didn't discover reincarnation's process. They discovered processes very narrow to their scope of study. It takes a generalist, it takes somebody not with blind scientific academic blinders on. It takes somebody with a more broader view of science, of discoveries, to kind of put all the pieces together. And that's what we've tried to do in this book. We've looked for those scientific discoveries that illuminate to us how this process probably works. And that's why we've written this book, Reincarnation, the Scientific Theory. The research that we rely upon is noted and cited in the book and also in the description of each of these episodes. So let's get to it. PhiAlpha is initiated once the limbic system becomes aware that death may be imminent. But PhiAlpha is a multi-stage process. The second stage of PhiAlpha is called memory organization. Survivors of near-death experiences often describe a period during which they observe their lives flashing before their mind's eye. We suspect this intense flood of visualized memories, some of which are from childhood, and perhaps even from past lives, to be direct physical evidence of PhiAlpha. We also suspect there is a connection between the limbic system's flashbulb memories and the experience of having life flash in front of your eyes. as has been anecdotally reported many times. Biologically, PhiAlpha must perform its functions within a narrow time window. Once the heart stops, oxygen is no longer pumped into the brain through the bloodstream. Brain damage begins within 3 to 5 minutes after cardiac arrest. Brain damage occurs within minutes thereafter, allowing, of course, for body temperature, causation, extent of any physical trauma, one's age, chronic disease, if any, and other variables. As a metabolic process, PhiAlpha requires energy to function. This energy must come from the brain cells involved. Though even the corpse possesses a continuing ability to upregulate, activate genes, we believe there is a bright line time limit, a point of no return, where PhiAlpha would no longer function due to the loss of oxygen within the brain. That makes sense. Upon cardiac arrest, this energy supply is limited to whatever enzymes and other energy forms the cells can obtain internally. Once this energy supply is exhausted, the brain can no longer support the metabolic needs that PhiAlpha require. There are 3 types of memories. We need to go over each one. Ultra short-term sensory stimuli memory. Ouch, that's hot. Ouch. That's an ultra short-term sensory stimuli memory. Now there's also working memory. What you do when you get up in the morning, your activities of daily living, driving to and from work, that kind of thing. Those are working memory. And then long-term memory. Events chosen for memory encoding in PhiAlpha are selected by a cooperative process of the thalamus and the amygdala as they occur. At the same time, the thalamus regulates neural firing of what are called action potentials to encode the event as a memory upon the neuron involved. The amygdala creates an emotional imprint upon the neuron, same neuron, that the event is recorded on, to prioritize its emotional significance. It also has a significant impact upon one's individuality, who we are as people. Because who you are, who I am, the only way we know who we are is the reflection of our memories. Past events reflected through our brain to us as individuals, our self-awareness. We know who we are based upon the emotions we remember and the events that created them. That's existence. Existence, you could say, is but a memory. The greater the emotional significance to the memory, the higher the encoded intensity within the neuron. We suspect the amygdala controls encoding of emotional intensity by varying the strength and the duration of the synaptic firing upon the neuron. Every time you think of something, the synapse is firing upon a specific neuron that it initially fired upon when you first thought of this event. Every time you rethink that same event, that firing is continuing. All right? The synapse fires every time you think of an event. And that firing is on the same neuron. So every time you think of an event, that it is a neuron that synapse is firing upon. So the more you think of an event, the larger the neuron has to be to contain those increasing firings of the synapses. Memories are then stored in the appropriate sensory lobes of the cerebral cortex. They're regulated by the hippocampus to create a fluid memory sequence when a recall of an event is required. We do this all the time, unconsciously. This is analogous to a motion picture. These edits are so well hidden, the observer, us, never knows they occurred. And because emotions are unique to each individual, memories of events can vary very greatly, even among those who witnessed the same event. This is one reason testimony of even honest witnesses at trials can be very inconsistent and even contradictory. The hippocampus determines which memories are to be selected for storage as long-term memories. How this is accomplished is not yet known. The exact mechanism of memory construction is not thoroughly understood. However, it is believed to be related to electrochemical energy transfer within the neuron itself. It's believed that a process called long-term potentiation allows the synapses to fire action potentials in sufficient number and intensity appropriate to the significance given the event to be placed in memory. The emotional impact determines how much the synapse fires. This long-term potentiation is in the form of discharges of high-frequency electrochemical energy by the synapse or synapses involved. Additionally, one of the lesser-known functions of the hippocampus appears to be the intensification of the brain's electromagnetic field at death. Experimenting with new technologies for detecting hard-to-find trace metals using laser ablation combined with mass spectrometry, researchers J.S. Becker and Miroslav Zoriy of the Jülich Research Center, a leading German interdisciplinary research center in Jülich, Germany, in 2005 found copper in higher overall concentrations in the hippocampus, including discrete copper concentrations in the dentate gyrus and in higher concentration in the layers of the cornu-monas located between the dentate gyrus and the subiculum. The presence of copper within the limbic systems itself is evidence of direct involvement in the electroconductivity needed to create an electromagnetic field. But an electromagnetic field requires a continuous current of electricity to exist, doesn't it? Yes, it does. Does the brain possess such a constant flow of electrons around the cortex that would link up all the memories and all the lobes into a singular individual state of coherent quantum energy and awareness? The answer is yes. And the answer lies, surprisingly enough, in the cerebral spinal fluid itself. Cerebral spinal fluid is a colorless, slightly alkaline, pH is between 7.28 and 7.32 usually. It's a liquid consisting of water and electrically conductive and ionizing minerals, including sodium, potassium, chloride, calcium, and magnesium. The cerebral spinal fluid occupies the subarachnoid space and the ventricular system around and inside the brain and the spinal column. This subarachnoid space contains the layers of delicate meninges, tissues within which the cerebral spinal fluid flows. The cerebral spinal fluid surrounds the brain like an ocean, like a little ocean of electrolytic fluid. It's always in motion. It's this constant motion of electrolytic fluid that creates the electrical magnetic field enveloping the brain. MRI video confirms the hypothesis that cerebral spinal fluid flow is not unidirectional circulation like blood supply, but the result of cardiac cycle dependent bidirectional systolic diastolic pulse washing forward and backward within the cranium. Darko Orešković and Marjan Klarica are both researchers at the Ruda Bošković Institute at Zagreb, Croatia. RBI is the largest Croatian research center in natural sciences and technology. Elementary particles, electrons and photons, are emitted from the transfer of ionized sodium and potassium atoms across the neural cell membranes as the cerebral spinal fluid pulsates back and forth over the cortex. This process creates a neural net of coherent information existing in a quantum mechanical state. Evidence of this neural net was found by researcher S.B. Bauman, B-A-U-M-A-N, of the Department of Neurological Surgery at the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center. In only the second reported study of cerebral spinal fluid conductivity, Bauman and his team found that in the 7 patients sampled, cerebral spinal fluid was found to be 23% higher in the body temperature than that at room temperature as ionic motion and diffusion increased. Further, a 3D finite element model of the head using more than 450,000 elements showed that scalp electric and magnetic fields are both highly sensitive to cerebral spinal fluid conductivity. The cerebral spinal fluid wash cycle action across the folds of the cortex creates an electromagnetic field producing quantum mechanical effects throughout the brain and the mind. It is proposed that this electromagnetic field creates a quantum coherence that unifies all memories together in a singularity of self-awareness, consciousness. We'll take a look next time at memory prioritization. This is the Universal Mind Channel. You can contact us at the Universal Mind Channel at theuniversalmindchannel@gmail.com. That's the Universal Mind Channel at gmail.com. Thank you so much.